first of all, any apologies, Andrew?
Yeah, I've only received one to date, Convener. That's Councillor Jones as an apology and being substituted today by Councillor Paul Kelly.
Yeah. Any other apologies, people? No. Okay, if we can go on to item 1 in the agenda. Any declarations of interest? No. Okay. We're going to be bombing through here this morning. Usually there's a few. On to item number 2, which is the Tackling Poverty paper, the update, and it's John. So you're right at the beginning this time, John.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, thank you. Morning, everyone. Today's report then is to seek approval from committee in the approach to the fuel hardship payment. The background is, obviously, you recall at the meeting in August, there was a report that gave an indication of how the COVID money was being spent in relation to financial insecurity, and at that point we'd said that we would be exploring an approach to having a fuel hardship payment in early 2022 of the remaining £950,000 that was left within that budget. In section 2, we bring just explained that the Tackling Poverty Author Action Group had established a subgroup who was looking at the fuel poverty payment scheme, which is now called the the fuel hardship payment. Having a look at target groups, eligibility criteria, the amount of payment, and decide who would administer the scheme. The subgroup is made up of all members within the Tackling Poverty Author Action Group, including some community planning partners too. We had a look at developing our own scheme, had a look at what was happening across other council areas, and the main area where there were a fuel poverty hardship payment was Highland Council. So we had a meeting with Highland Council to discuss how their process worked, try to learn from their experience, the good and the bad parts of it, to allow us to come up with a scheme. Having looked at all the sort of kind of target groups, and the fact that again we had updated the Tackling Poverty Strategy action plan and produced our third local child poverty action report, and indeed even within the local housing strategy, it was estimated that there was around 31,000 people who experienced fuel poverty in North Lanarkshire, of which 8,000 of them were families with children who were householders. And then we also looked at, again, other groups, and in particular looked at 18 to 24-year-olds. And the projected household report indicates that there's around about, of 2018, that 5,375 young people would be householders. Now that, in relation to housing benefit, that figure doesn't necessarily correlate, but that may well be that they're not entitled to housing benefit or indeed council tax reduction. So therefore, the young people who are working but on the breadline. Originally that was 18 to 24-year-old, but we extended it to 16 to 24-year-olds. We then did look at other client groups, and indeed particularly older people, and it was felt that, from the group's point of view, that older people do receive the winter fuel payment, as much as £400, whether these other groups aren't really able to access any sort of kind of fuel payment to help them with bills. So that was the main reason why we picked those two groups. We then had a look at the fact that potentially if there was any unused monies, then we would maybe look to offer that opportunity in February, early March, to couples with no kids, if there was any unused funds, although I would anticipate that that's highly unlikely. So also then in 2.3, you've got the eligibility criteria and the amount for payment. So it's going to be families and then young people aged 16 to 24-year-olds. They have to obviously be a householder. We're going to use the definition for fuel poverty, which means that after rent and council tax, that people pay 10% of their net income on fuel bills. And we'll then also put in that target groups will have to be entitled to council tax returns reduction scheme, or if not in council tax, are coming on low income, and they need to have less than £700 in savings or have no access to public funds. All applicants, whether they are successful or not, will be offered a free confidential benefits check, debt advice, fuel energy advice, and support from the financial inclusion team and from the North Lanarkshire Advice Network. All applicants will also be considered for a Scottish Welfare Fund grant at each stage of the process. And it will be the Scottish Welfare Fund team who will administer the payment. We said there back the 23rd of August, we estimated around about £950,000 available for the scheme. Based on if it was 14,000 people, households who were eligible for it, that would make the payment £75 per household. And that was another reason as the sense of keeping it just to two client groups, because if you extended the client group, then ultimately reduced the amount of money that each household would get. And we wanted to offer something more than just the £25 cold weather payment that people may well get depending on the temperature, over a 7-day sort of kind of period. As I said, the Scottish Welfare Fund team will administer the applications. It's intended that they will open the scheme in January 2022 and then close it at the end of January, with payment being made in the third week in February. Now, it is a moving piece, and we have been met with IT and corporate comms, and we because it's a fixed pot of money, we'll obviously need to watch throughout January to make sure that if 14,000 households come in the first 2 weeks in January, then and they all meet the eligibility criteria, then the money is gone. So obviously that will need to be communicated, and also we need to give Scottish Welfare Fund time to assess each application. IT are working with us to develop an online application, and any monies that is paid will be paid via BACS, which is in people's bank accounts. But for people without a bank account, then we will use PayPoint in those type of cases. The fuel hardship payment will be self-declaration, online application, and we will reserve the right to request any further evidence if we feel it's required. However, there will be no rights of review or appeal on the payment. Within Appendix 1 of the report, you have a application form explainer and also a flow chart. I don't know, convener, if you wish me just to try and go through this flow chart with members, or whether your members are happy enough to look at the flow chart, and I'm quite happy to answer any questions.
Flowchart was sent out separately. Did people look at it enlarged on the screen? Or would you like John to go through it with you? Can I get a wee signal from people? Are you happy with what John has said? Yeah. Okay. Right. I only see one question, and that's from Councillor J. Ashraf. Junaid.
Thanks, Chair. Fantastic piece of work, and I think it really does its best to be wider than just a pot of money, and to engage with communities to support them in a wide variety of ways. I think the concern that I had is that we could be in the position that somebody applies for this within, say, the 1st or 2nd of January, and they won't really see any payment given to them until 7 weeks later, which is quite a substantial amount of time. So I wanted to ask whether or not there was the possibility of perhaps having like 2 rounds of funding or something along those lines, or if that's something that's been considered by the working group. And secondly, I think in terms of, I think it was 2.2 or 2.2.3 around there. If the decision had been made to also engage with families living in poverty with children who are householders, I would have thought it would have better to have stayed within that sort of remit, as opposed to finding other groups to support with the monies further than that. I can understand why that decision was made, but perhaps was there any consideration given by the group to perhaps look to increase the money that's given to the families who have already applied, rather than reaching out to additional groups? Because I can see obviously that the decision for how much money was to be given per household was calculated on the basis of the potential claimants. So if we fully sort of exhausted the number of people that we have? Could there not be a way to perhaps increase the money? And the reason why I would say that is if we're looking to target these specific families to support them, should we not look to just further support them? Those are my two questions, Chair.
Okay, John.
Yep, thanks, thanks, Chair. Councillor. In the sense of making a payment earlier in January, I suppose the main reason around having an open period of 4 weeks in January and then a payment in the third week in February was obviously we would expect the administration of this to be quite burdenous, and the fact that obviously 14,000 potentially applications coming in. In fact, there may well be more than 14,000 applications. So that was really around administration. When the individuals or the households apply for it, if with the process, if you look at the flow chart, at each stage, they are, looked at from an income maximisation point of view, money advice, debt advice, fuel advice, but they will also be looked at from a crisis grant point of view as well. So if Scottish Welfare Fund feel that a family really can't wait until the third week in February for a payment, then they will consider them for a crisis grant, and if they meet the criteria that for that benefit, they will pay that crisis grant at that time. And the person or the household will still get the £75 in the third week in February. We felt that was the best way to do that. In the sense of considering target groups, yeah, I mean, we did have a look at families, but we wanted to do this time something just a bit different. You'd have recalled in all the different payments that we've had around financial insecurity. We have targeted families, in particular families who are in the state of free school meals and indeed school clothing grant from the financial insecurity budget and the hardship budget. We're still targeting those families. They are also the group that has been targeted by the Scottish Government in the sense of a spring payment, a summer payment, a winter payment, and obviously a low income pandemic payment. So again, we're still targeting that group, recognising that that's a group that is feeling probably the biggest pressures. But we felt that furlough coming to an end, the £20 UC uplift disappearing, that there was a group of young people who were householders who were also struggling, and it was felt particularly, for that group, and indeed including some of our young care leavers, and just young people trying to start out within their own home, that they would be a group who would maybe welcome some support. And again, obviously that's looking at the Tackling Poverty Strategy, the Local Child Poverty Action Report, looking at the local housing strategy, and then also speaking to the advice services and other community planning partners, and it felt that we would target young people aged between 16 to 24 as well, to give them a bit of support. So we did look at that, and we could have said, okay, we'll just give it to families, and they may have got £100 to £125, but it was felt that £75, it's a reasonable amount of money, and it would be useful to do that across and just reach a wider range of people, in particularly a group, young people who's been 16 and 24, who may not have been getting a lot of support previously, but had been severely impacted by the changes that everybody had been impacted with, in the sense of furlough and the £20 UC credit, universal credit uplift disappearing. I hope that answers your questions.
Okay, Councillor Ashcroft.
Chair, sorry, just one supplementary question. So the engagement that's happening with the applicants will be happening during the January period. So it's not just they're applying, say, for example, early January, and then they're only going to hear back basically from like the third week of February. This whole engagement process, part of it will happen between January to the third week of February in that period, and then just simply the payment will be made on the third week. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as you go through the application process, you'll see in the flow chart that they're asked just questions at every stage, and if they answer, they would like income maximisation or they would like consider for a crisis grant, then that happens at every stage. Yeah.
All right, fantastic. All right, thank you.
Okay. I don't see any other questions, but one thing is we have a real anomaly in North Lanarkshire regarding the cold weather payment, as Bells Hill and Coatbridge seem to come under the Glasgow weather station, which is much further from the one that's in North Lanarkshire, and it also has higher temperatures. So certain areas in North Lanarkshire do not get cold weather payments for that reason. So you may find an unbalance in the way the claims come in, John, for people are not getting weather payments. Do we approve the paper, people? Yep. Okay. Next paper is Working with Communities model, and it's Leanne.
Thanks, convener. This report provides an update on two related work stream items under Programme of Work PO 56.2, and that's related specifically to community boards and the development of their local outcome improvement plans, or LOIPs as we're calling them, and work with community planning partners to develop a support model for the delivery of the LOIPs in each locality. At previous committee meetings, members have been updated on progress with the development of the LOIPs and plans to undertake engagement with partners through NLP Strategic Leadership Board to develop the partnership model for the delivery of the LOIPs and supporting the community boards. This report provides a short update on Community Board Cycle 5 and updates that the LOIPs have now been launched and have been published on the Council's website, and there's a link within the report for members to have a look. And work is underway to continue to develop the actions. Now the focus is really on developing the actions that sit within each of the priorities for each area. Included in the report are updates on some of the key cross-cutting themes and some of the work that we've done with services and partners around specifically tackling poverty, digital inclusion, and work with young people. Appendix 2 shows how progress with the LOIPs will be reported to community boards from Cycle 5. We're working on the detail of exactly what that template will look like, but it will take that form. The report also highlights that an NLP Strategic Leadership Board partnership development session took place in August, and that was to consider how partners collectively will develop a model that will be in order to support delivery of the LOIPs and to make sure that there's ownership and buy-in from across the partnership for delivering the local outcome improvement plan priorities at a local level and also supporting the operational side of the community boards. Appendix 3 provides an overview of the agenda that was focused around how partners work together in relation to operation of the community boards and delivery around the LOIPs, how they, in terms of their individual organisations, make sure that they've got processes internally that they're able to support the delivery of the LOIPs and the community boards, and to make sure that there's that oversight in terms of the performance tracking around the LOIPs and the community boards. The report also there was consensus at the session, that there was a need for some kind of local locality structure that supports the 9 community board areas. So there was real consensus there around that. And there was also support for the Council's intention to create an extended corporate management team interface between community board cycles to ensure that local matters requiring any leadership input are addressed, and that this would be at some point widened out to include community planning partners. However, there was also some recognition of potential resource implications for some partner organisations, and the next step is to produce an implementation plan to reflect agreed action to develop the partnership support model and the governance that sits behind that from a community planning perspective. 2.3 of the report re-emphasises the approved progress tracking approach and provides assurance, reporting arrangements and timelines for that. And really it's just recommended that committee notes the finalisation and the launch of the local outcome improvement plans, notes the outcome of initial dialogue with community planning partners through the NLP Strategic Leadership Board to develop partnership support arrangements for delivery of the LOIPs, endorses the plan to finalise partnership support and delivery model, and notes progress tracking and assurance arrangements for local community planning. Thanks, Chair.
All right, I don't see any questions. Oh, sorry, Councillor Ashraf again.
Thank you so much for that, Leanne. It looks incredibly important and I think my question kind of relates to your discussion about the community engagement sort of strategy and the production of obviously an implementation plan. And I wanted to know whether or not there could be the possibility of engaging with across different organisations in North Lanarkshire Council. We know that they're a bit mishmash sometimes, some equalities organisations such as ethnic minority groups or wider to that, supporting refugee groups or asylum seekers, etc. I didn't know whether or not with these groups that are traditionally sort of disenfranchised and don't have the engagement, and North Lanarkshire not really having the same sort of infrastructure that Glasgow has, for example, where people work across the entirety of the region, whether or not there could be the possibility to perhaps setting up like a small group to basically engage with them on a slightly higher level. I think a lot of these organisations don't feel as if when they obviously approach a community board, etc., they're trying to find out themselves how they're supposed to engage. And I think perhaps if we had that engagement with them on a slightly higher level and its own sort of specified group, part of this implementation plan that you're discussing, that perhaps this could set a better precedent for us moving ahead with the LOIPs, and perhaps with more groups coming out, being constituted, etc., that there could be a better streamlining to how new organisations could perhaps be involved with the LOIPs in the future, just so that infrastructure is built for North Lanarkshire Council. So I don't know whether or not that's a possibility or something that's been considered.
Leanne, can you answer that one? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, and I think it's a good point to raise at this point in the development of the LOIPs and the implementation of the kind of priorities. So when we were developing the LOIPs, there was certainly some targeted approaches in terms of trying to engage with specific equalities groups. Now that the LOIPs have been approved, the next stage, I suppose, is about saying, right, how do we deliver these priorities and make sure that they're really focused on tackling inequalities? And I think that now is the time to do exactly as you're saying, is to really focus in on who's not at the table. So we've certainly seen an increase through the community board structure in equalities groups participating, and there's been efforts to try and encourage that. But we do recognise that for some groups it's a lot more difficult than others for them to be able to participate in that type of meeting. So I think now is the time for us to say, right, let's look at the priorities in each of the areas, and what do we need to do to make sure that to identify who's maybe not participating and what targeted action we need to take to encourage engagement from those particular groups. But I absolutely take your point that maybe there's an opportunity. Well, I think there absolutely is. There's no maybe about it. An opportunity for us to now that we're launching the LOIPs, and I know that although we're saying they're published, what we still need to do is that kind of, I suppose, official launch out in communities. And I think we could certainly target that to specific equalities groups and do a bit of engagement around how some of the barriers for them participating and some of the opportunities for them to get more involved, and how we really develop approaches that are much more targeted to specific needs. So absolutely take that on board, and certainly we'll build that into the implementation plan around the local outcome improvement plans. I hope that's what you meant, Councillor, and I've answered the question, but we'll certainly take that as an action.
I think Liz would like to come in for a minute too. Liz?
Yeah, if that's okay, Convener, just in relation to Councillor Ashraf's point as well, I think it would be worth noting that one of the things that we've done in terms of an improvement agenda is that we've taken all the resettlement work into community learning and development service, and we've now moved, instead of having an adult learning team within the service, now we have an adult learning and resettlement team, because I think we recognise that we've got kind of different phases in terms of resettlement, and we will now kind of look at, as well as kind of looking at our new arrivals and support, etc. We have a number of new Scots, and it's about now making sure that we build that infrastructure in terms of supporting the work that Leanne's doing, and making sure that we have a greater focus on community integration. So I think we will see that kind of happening, and we certainly see taking the resettlement work and rather have it sitting in isolation as part of the community learning and development service now, so that we can look at that whole community development approach with those communities. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Ashraf, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. I think this is one supplementary part, but page 25, just towards the bottom, they talk about tackling inequalities and talking about ensuring quality impact assessments on individual plans and proposals are considered. If there's an example of an equality impact assessment that has been carried out before on any previous plans that have been looked into on engagement plans or with what's going on with the LUPs and things like that, I'd be interested if somebody could send me an example across of a process that is undergone by officers. If that's
okay. Can someone do that for Councillor Ashraf, please? Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Right, that's great. Thank you. I have to say that with the community boards, there definitely is an improvement in seldom heard voices. People who would never be at LAPs before are certainly coming along to community boards. So let's hope it continues and there's a wider range of people in future. Can we approve the paper? Yep. Okay. If we can go on to participatory budgeting, and Ross, it's yourself. Welcome to the committee.
Thanks, convener. So this report's just to update committee on the progress that we're making in the development and implementation of the council's participatory budgeting process in line with the programme of work action PO 56.2. So a paper's been prepared that will be taken to the next cycle of the community boards, outlining the requirement for each board to set up a PB steering group to support the delivery of mainstream PB at a local level. The structure of these groups will be determined by each individual community board. We don't feel that one size fits all will work for PB delivery at a local level. So we're actually going to localise the decision making and the governance around PB delivery and give community boards far more oversight and input into how that will look for their area moving forward. Each of the boards will set up a group, and that may be a new group to deliver on PB in some other areas of work, or it may fit into an existing subgroup that they have in place. Again, each board will be allowed to make those decisions, and council officers will support them to operate those groups. The groups that are set up will be able to recommend the PB approach for their community board area based on their local knowledge, on the LOIC priorities, and also taking into account the budgets we already have agreed over the next 4 years. The group will also have a remit to consider how community benefits relating to council contracts can be delivered either through PB in their areas or through as a standalone project stream. The administration of PB delivery will still sit with the communities team. So the groups that are set up are really there to provide the council guidance on what's important to them in the local area and where they feel we should be delivering. Guidance notes, application forms and support such as consultations will continue to be provided by council officers. This approach to the mainstream PB, we've got quite a high level of confidence that from April 2022, we'll be able to roll out mainstream PB to deliver local development programme funding and community benefits across all 9 community board areas. And just to update committee on point 2.3.3 of the report, we talk about delivering PB at a local level, focusing on some of our priority outcome areas. We've actually just secured £2,000 in grant funding from the Motherwell Health and Social Care Consortium to deliver a PB event in the Craigneuk area of Motherwell to focus on increased health and wellbeing during the recovery period of the pandemic. That's all the update, convener, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay, Rose, I don't see any questions. Very positive. I think we've learned our lessons regarding the initial trial of participatory budgeting, and it will be in the hands of our community boards. Do we agree to note the report? Yep. Okay. If we can now go on to the next one, which is Liv, and it's the summer programme.
Yeah, convener, this is just a really short report and it just outlines the work. Summer was an extremely busy time for the CLD team, and across our youth work, our family learning, our adult learning and our work to address learning loss through our transition programmes in high school. We had a really busy time and you know in the past we're always kind of criticised that people don't know kind of the work that CLD is doing. So a small group of staff, frontline staff, worked with the team to produce a summer report. that captures the work across all the different strands and highlighting the work in specific areas. So this is really just for members' information, and I hope they enjoy just reading the work that was happening. You know, it was really crucial this year that we had a real effort in terms of recovery and getting a lot of our young people, our adults, our families and our communities back engaged in face-to-face work. And that happened over the summer, and all credit to the staff. You know, this was all done within the relevant risk assessments, but I'm sure you'll see from the report they've done everything that they can to kind of make things as normal as possible, and we had a broad coverage of work. Our numbers, we had to be, you know, very careful in terms of group sizes and making sure that we were operating within all the various guidelines, but the report, you know, kind of captures that we had a hugely successful summer programme, and that was also enhanced by the additional funding that we got through the flexible fund that was able to top up our core fund, and the work that we've done in partnership with our colleagues in education through the summer programme as well. So no further kind of points from me, convener. It was really just to bring that to members' attention for information.
Okay, Councillor Brian McVeigh, you've got a comment.
Thanks very much, convener. I think it was a really interesting evaluation report to see, and I think many of our communities have really missed their CLD interaction. And the first comment in the introduction for me, just after the introductory paragraph, that over 17,000 people from our 1,700 people attended CLD summer programmes. That in itself is wonderful. That shift from digital to online, again, while still being supporting the digital activities, I just think it's been wonderful to see folk back out and about in our communities, working really creatively, really innovatively, and still embedding accreditation opportunities for those who want them in our communities too. I think really vital in an area that we missed seeing. So thanks to all across the authority for their work and their creativity and their ability to wrap up Warham, because they've needed to do it. So thanks very much, convener.
Thanks, Councillor Brandon McVeigh. Councillor McGowan.
Again, it's a comment. I think the work they did is absolutely amazing in very difficult circumstances. But the comment I want to make is that the youngsters actually managed to achieve qualifications in this time as well. 100 youth accreditations and awards received, 20 SQA awards received by achieved by adult learners, and 50 youth volunteers contributed 2,000 plus hours of volunteering. So I think under the difficult circumstances of COVID that people actually, and the Youth Guarantee Programme, I met at the opening of the Ravenscraig Park, Gillian McCairn, or I think her married name is Gillian Aiken, was there with 12 of the youngsters who are going towards their, or who are taking part in the Youth Guarantee Programme, and they were working extremely hard, and I was totally impressed with that, because that leads into jobs and employment. So just a positive comment. I think that the work they're doing is astonishing. Thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree with both the comments, and what was lovely to see was it wasn't in one part of North Lanarkshire, it was across the authority. So young people across the authority were gaining from this. So well done to the team. Do we agree to note the report? Yep. Okay, and next one, it's Christine, and it's the Cycle 5 update.
Thanks, convener. The purpose of this report is to ensure that the Community Empowerment Committee is kept informed about the work of the community boards. This report covers the 5th cycle of meetings that took place in August-September 2021 and focuses on community representation, which is key to the ongoing development of the board. Attendance at the 5th cycle of community board meetings reflected a good mixture of partners, elected members and community groups and organisations. Approximately 247 people attended board meetings, with 106 community reps in attendance, which was about an average of around 12 per community board meeting, although some boards had more community reps than others. In addition to this, the live streaming of the board was also viewed as successful, with over 1,000 views across all community board areas. Seldom heard voices, I know we've kind of heard in the meeting previously. Within this cycle of meetings, there was continued involvement of seldom heard voices. Lanarkshire Muslim Women and Family Alliance, Who Cares Scotland, the Voice of Experience Forum, North Lanarkshire Disability Access Forum are all represented at community boards. Efforts will continue to further extend the reach of community input in the board, and continued work will be undertaken within local communities to ensure that seldom heard voices are regularly represented at future board meetings. In this report, the importance of wider representation, meaningful engagement and decision making was identified. The recommendation is that the Community Empowerment Committee is recommended to note the ways in which communities have influenced the development of the board, and the ongoing work to enhance this, recognising the attendance at the board has been widened and further representation is expected at the next round of board meetings in November, December 2021. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Again, don't see any questions, but I'm also happy that even Bellshill's caught up with the other boards and we're now going to have someone else chairing from the community. So they are making progress. Oops, I'm sorry. Councillor McGowan, you've come on. I should have said nothing and just said we'll go for it.
It's just a wee question that probably somebody has said it or I should know the answer. But you know, it says at 2.1.12, community boards can be more established. This is providing an opportunity for the wider community to attend. How do the wider community get the joining details for WebEx meetings easily?
Yeah, Councillor McGowan, what we did was we circulated that via the My Towns sites, but also we encourage our contacts within local communities to provide as much information to local communities as possible, and they actually come through Community Matters. So anybody interested can just send us an email via Community Matters, and we will get in touch and include them in the list of people who are invited to meetings.
Okay, that's great. I can tell people that. Thank you very much.
I have to say, Christine is very good at doing that for people. I've had to get in touch a couple of times to get people added to different boards. So excellent.
Thanks, Councillor.
Do we agree to note the report, people? Yep. Okay. Next, Community Board Development Programme, and that is Leanne.
Thanks, Convener. This report provides an update on projects that have previously received approval at community boards and committee under the Local Development Programme. These projects have predominantly originated from communities, and members should be aware that all projects, where relevant, have been subject to design work, local consultation and ground investigations as required. The process can result in projects not proceeding following some of those investigations due, for example, finance or site restrictions, or due to proposals being rejected by local communities through consultation on design. So sometimes a project might be ready to go, but still, for a number of reasons around feasibility or restrictions, might still not proceed. Where applicable, work has been undertaken to move towards design for projects to prepare for consultation. On receipt of designs, these have been shared with elected members for further input, and further discussions can take place regarding individual projects at this stage as required. So if any members want to discuss a specific project, then feel free, obviously, to get in touch with myself or Matt Costello. There has been some restriction due to the pandemic. However, arrangements have largely been made to maximise capital spend on the projects where appropriate. The report also gives an update on the budgetary position for projects and advises regarding the status of projects, which shows that the majority of projects are now completed for previous years. So we're pretty much up to speed with the projects that had been agreed previously. The report also highlights the approach taken to improving consultation on projects with local communities, as shown in one of the appendices. And that's a bit of a hybrid model of where we've got kind of online, we've now developed online Microsoft Teams forums that can be used for consultation, but we still will support communities and take comments via telephone or, via email, etc. So committees just asked really to note progress with current local development projects, and outlined in Appendix 1 and to approve in principle the other projects that have been listed in Appendix 2. In addition to what's already included within the report, we would want to highlight to you an additional increased budget for the Kirkley project in Bells Hill. This was originally proposed as parking, but is actually now going to become a play facility and will require additional budget. This will utilise both existing local development programme resource, but also some funding received from Scottish Government. We also have additional projects in Bells Hill and Coatbridge to be included. A potential traffic calming project in Moss Nuke Street and a potential dog walking area in Dunure Place, Coatbridge. We have a Stamac Lane where we are looking at parking. Apologies, that's not my area, so I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Where we are looking to do some additional parking. And we are looking to do some additional work in Moss End, where a local community group, a local group of residents have approached us around Rosevale Crescent to look at a contribution towards some sort of play facility, probably not a play park, but maybe some sort of mugga or kind of pitch type idea. So we're working with them just now to agree. So we need to add them in. It was too late to add them onto the report, so we're just looking to have them approved, and we'll add them into the appendices moving forward, bearing in mind that, as I outlined earlier, these are only indicative at this point in time and will depend on deliverability, time scale, timelines, budgetary information, and obviously any other kind of restrictions that might be highlighted as we move to consultation with local communities. That's all I've got to say on that, convener, and happy to take any comments or questions.
Well, I can understand how we had a problem in part of the community board up at Holytown regarding a path, and it was over someone else's ground and we didn't get permission, etc. So things like that happen. But I don't see any questions. Do we approve the report with the additions that Leanne has said? Yep. Okay. Thank you so much. Now we're on to the Camps' Grant Award programme, and I understand there were meetings with the elected representatives in Cumbernauld regarding this. And Gary, welcome to committee.
Thanks, convener, and good morning, everyone. The purpose of this report is to provide committee with an update regarding the progress of the applications received in round 1 of the Camps' Grant Award programme, and also provide some information and the recommendations in relation to round 2. Firstly, the update for round 1. To date, further funding arrangements and agreements are now in place for all 9 organisations, and payments will be made within the next week or so. In regard to round 2, 35 applications were submitted by the deadline. The total amount requested was £324,854.38, which meant that the programme was significantly oversubscribed. Committee members will recall that the balance of £224,298 was available for allocation, with an upper limit of £10,000 per application being agreed at the last committee. This was to allow more groups the potential benefit by accessing smaller funding awards. It was also agreed that successful applicants from round 1 would not be eligible to reapply. Based on the recommendations, the budget could potentially be overspent by £2,132 if we go ahead with the scoring up to 7 points. The recommendation based on the 7 points may mean that slight reductions will be required to be made in order to bring the budget into balance. All applications were assessed by council officers and with input from Voluntary Action North Lanarkshire using the scoring sheet shown in Appendix 3. It is recommended that only groups that met the criteria most effectively be funded. Details of the funding recommendations are listed in Appendix 2. It is recommended that the Community Empowerment Committee note the update provided regarding round 1 applications, approve the funding recommendations contained in Appendix 2 for the Camps' Grant Award programme, And note that successful applicants will be made aware of any conditions that require to be satisfied before award levels are finalised and made. Note that funding allocations may be subject to a slight reduction to meet the budget requirements. And note that the campus's funding stream, once grant allocations are paid out, will be fully committed and no further rounds are required at this time. And also note that in the event of further grant funding becoming available, local community organisations will be made aware of the future funding rounds in due course and encouraged to make applications. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Gary. I don't see any questions. I know that the Cumbernauld councillors, who are those most affected, have already had their opportunities to have meetings with Matt. Okay, do we agree to approve the report then? Yep. Okay. And now it's back to yourself, Leanne, just for a change.
Thanks, convener. You'll be glad to hear this is my last report of the morning. So this report really just provides an update on Climate Action Towns programme that's currently being led by Architecture and Design Scotland, and proposals that they have to target activity specifically to the Hollytown area of North Lanarkshire. So the Scottish Government programme for government outlines a commitment to developing a network of climate action towns, and Architecture and Design Scotland, as I say, they're leading in this work with a focus on 6 small towns in Scotland. They define towns quite a bit differently from us, from what we would in North Lanarkshire. So when they're talking about towns, they're talking about an area that's got a population of between 3,000 and just under 10,000. And that they've got a bit of a focus for this work around the areas that have got kind of little historical involvement in any climate action. But also, obviously, there are probably loads of areas across North Lanarkshire, across Scotland, sorry, that would fit that, and potentially in North Lanarkshire as well, if you just took those 2 elements of the criteria. So Architecture and Design Scotland have undertaken an exercise to assess 156 towns that meet that basic criteria, and an outline of the methodologies contained in the appendices. The initiative is about collective partnership approaches to supporting grassroots climate action, building on existing approaches that already exist within those communities. So it's not about coming in and creating structures if there are already well-established community structures, but it's about working with what already exists. Architecture and Design Scotland will provide funded support to increase understanding in these areas of climate change and to facilitate place-based activity on climate action. It's an opportunity really to test and build approaches to developing methodology for climate action, but that can be used then and built upon to engage local people and look at other actions or priorities that local people have. And for us, that's a real opportunity to link into the LOIP for the Bells Hill area and to do some targeted work in Hollytown and engaging people from that area within that based on local need. So far, early engagement has included work with council services, so a number of council services as well as the communities team. We've had, CLD, a number of different services across the council have been involved, along with Van Ale and NHS Lanarkshire, and that's about discussing opportunities for how this could support existing work and priorities, and what they've started to look at is agreeing some of the scope for the work and the next steps to start to engage now with the community in Hollytown to really start to develop a local action plan related to this work. From a council perspective, as I said, this approach fits very well with the model for working with communities and the work around developing the local priorities through the LOIPs, etc., but also really fits well with the climate change priorities that the council has. So it's recommended that committee at this point notes the aims of the Climate Action Towns programme, supports plans to develop an approach targeted to Hollytown, and agrees to receive further updates at future committee meetings. Thank you.
Thanks, Leanne. Something I was delighted when it first was raised at the community board, because Hollytown's the one area within our community board that's not really been involved in anything to date. It's very positive that some action will be taken there and hopefully can spread across the council, any good practice that comes out of it. I don't see any other questions or comments, so do we agree to approve the report? Yep. Okay. I've got more bits of paper here than enough. We're now on to the Youth Guarantee Programme, and that would be yourself, Liz.
Convener, it's Eleanor and Marita, the coordinator, and we also have some of the actual assistant support workers who are employed through the Youth Guarantee that are going to speak to committee today, I hope. So I'll pass you over to Eleanor, I think, and then the young people.
Right, Eleanor and Marita, thank you for coming along and thanks for bringing the young people. So we always enjoy it when we have visitors.
Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Convener. Good morning, everybody. The report provides an update on the progress of the Community Learning Development Youth Guarantee programme as it reaches a milestone of just over 6 months. The report shows how the programme is developed and evolved within an environment of co-production, where the Youth Guarantee programme development worker, who is Marita, the assistant support workers themselves, CLD staff and the wider NLC and partner agencies all work together to develop this programme. The assistant support workers are first and foremost employees of North Lanarkshire Council, but with the added advantage of a bespoke programme for each as an individual, and through this they're gaining valuable experience in a fast-paced working environment and understanding the rules that surround working for an organisation as large as North Lanarkshire Council. Within the programme there's extensive training that includes induction training and all the mandatory training that we are required to do, but also the CLD training in adult learning, family learning and youth work, as well as a wide range of other training opportunities delivered by internal and external colleagues and partners. And these include accredited courses for the gain significant qualifications. There's also been full and individual support to each of the assistant support workers based on their own needs, including having a CLD mentor who works very closely with them, and not only to navigate the working within an organisation like North Lanarkshire, but also with personal and pastoral support with that as well. Progression pathways through this programme are now becoming clearer at the 6-month stage, and several of the assistant support workers are working with their mentors and with the development worker, planning progression into their own desired field once they leave the programme. Some have already decided to take up a career in community learning development and are meeting with University of the West of Scotland for further guidance. Others will work with SDS and the employability team to identify suitable opportunities, either in employment or in further education. So today we have 3 of the assistant support workers who will each take a couple of minutes just to tell you about their own experiences of the programme. We have Erin McGill, Carla Cummings and Amy Muslick. Marita is also there with them today, them. They're in the Civic, so they're using the one laptop, but there are social distancing, masks on when they're not on screen, etc. So first I'll pass over to Erin to give you an update on her own personal experience. Erin, thank you.
Hi, thanks. I'm Erin and I'm a assistant support worker, mainly based in Airdrie. And before getting this job, I wanted to go to university to do primary teaching, but after the first year I ended up dropping out because I felt that the course didn't really suit me. At the beginning of this job, I considered a career towards like social work, but I had no plans of going back to uni because I thought after failing the first time there was no point in going back. However, after the experience I've had with the CLD and getting to see everything they offer, and getting to gain all these new qualifications like first steps of youth work and my first aid training, I've now reconsidered and I'm applying to university to do community education, so I can become a CLD worker myself. Going into this job, I had experience working mainly with additional support needs children, but this programme has introduced me to so many new experiences and gave me a future career path that I would not have considered without it, which I'm quite grateful for. Most of my experiences have been around youth and family learning, but I've had a completely new experience with all of them.
Oh, we seem to have frozen.
We've lost the connection there.
It looks like.
Maybe if Marisa put the camera off and we'd be able to get sound. I think we've lost.
I think we've lost them.
which is unfortunate because it's really interesting to hear.
I know. It
Someone
may be
changing a career path and finding it's helped so much.
Oh,
Oh,
here we go.
I can.
Erin was saying it's all gone, everybody's gone. Right. I think was that you? Erin, do you want to finish up your wee part?
Sorry about that.
All the time, Erin.
Yeah, so I was just saying, like, a lot of my experience so far has been mainly with youth and family learning. So I've been doing a lot of baby groups, sensory and massage, drop-in centres for families that are kind of struggling, especially with COVID, like being socially isolated and everything. And I've seen a lot of them kind of make friends there, which is quite nice. A lot of them have like family issues and are completely isolated and alone, live alone, don't have any support. But in the other end, I've been doing a lot of my youth work's been like first year, like working with primary sevens going up to first year over the summer and getting to introduce to each other, make pals, so they had someone to talk to when they got there. And working in a high school in Shotts with children who are most likely to leave school early or have educational like problems, which has been great because despite them not being able to kind of keep up with the rest of the school, they're so enthusiastic about what they are getting to do in that class. So it's made me really excited to kind of go in and help them with like a future career in that sense. I'm hoping to go on university and kind of help kids the way I've been seeing everyone else do. And yeah, I've been getting a lot of support from managers, my mentor especially, and a lot of the CLD workers I've worked with have all really encouraged me to continue with this career path and go to university. Like, not one of them has told me otherwise. And they're all very persistent on it, actually. So I'm just very grateful for this programme, because without it, I probably wouldn't have ever thought about this kind of career path. And I'm really, really enjoying it. So that's all I've got to say. So I'll just hand you over to Carla now.
Erin, that was great.
Hi, I'm Carla and I'm an assistant support worker for CLD. I applied for a job with CLD because I knew it was all about helping other people and helping places around my community. I was inspired by the youth workers when I was younger, as I always attended lots of youth groups and always wanted to be one of them people who helped me. And I've always wanted to work in the sector because when I was younger, I always thought that's such a good job. And I just think that the people that help me, they just look as if they're having a great time. So I thought, you know, I'll try it out. I had lots of experience volunteering, which helped me gain a lot of confidence and made me want to join the line of work. And the certain job that I have is just what I've always wanted to do. The past 7 months, I gained a lot of experience and skills. I've also learned a lot about myself. I've done the following qualifications: First Steps to Youth Work, First Steps to Family Learning, First Aid, a Youth Achievement Award. I've gained lots of skills which have helped me in the workplace, and the day I have today, I have become more confident and learned how to become the leader instead of the one who's being led. I've always gained experience in a variety of ways with a variety of age groups, from baby massage groups, youth work, primary schools, adult learning, and I also helped in Fur Park, which is an ASN school. Through all this, I've also learned that I'm great at helping other people. I have patience. I've got to deal with difficult situations, as I'm being faced with hard ones, and that I'm also very good with those children who need that little extra support with tasks, and I can alter tasks well that can suit others. This job has also made me make a lot of new different people and helped me become who I am today. At the end of my year, I hope I can carry on with the same line of work, whether that is go to college or carrying out through the job itself, as I love my job and love to work my way up to become a CLD qualified worker. Personally, this job has helped me gain a lot of experience and have gave me something to live for. this gives me something to look forward to as I set up, knowing that I love my job, which makes it so much easier and enjoyable when I go to work.
Thanks, Carla.
Hiya, I'm Amy and I'm also an assistant support worker with the Youth Guarantee Programme. I'm based in Coatbridge and Motherwell. When it comes to youth work, it's always been a part of my life. I started off in groups at a young age and I started volunteering when I was about 14. I was always planning helping youth workers run groups, even though I was meant to be a part of the group essentially. For years I worked in Screwfix as well, and then I went to college to HNC in social services, but then I quickly dropped out of that because I knew that wasn't for me and it wasn't the path that I wanted to take. So for a while I was just working in Screwfix and I had no prospect of what I was doing in my life. I was just taking a year to decide how I was going to get to where I wanted to be. And then I seen this job opportunity and I knew that I had to take it, like I couldn't let it go. Before this programme, I was just going to work as a support worker without attaining any uni qualification, because education, like I done well in school, however, I didn't love it. It didn't capture me. I prefer working, actively being out there and doing things. So I've now decided over the past few months that I want to go to uni to do community education, and I want to become a fully qualified CLD worker, whether that be in the sector of youth work or family. Throughout the programme, there's also been a variety of different training opportunities to help me and my colleagues attain further qualifications. Most of us have received now our first aid training, our first steps to youth work, and a couple of youth achievement awards. And my next steps include the Platinum Youth Achievement Award, the PDA and youth work. Training opportunities have also been amazing experience, such as drama workshops, confidence building, team building, and many more. Every week there's something new that we've got to start or we've got to go through to help us along the next few months that will lead to us finishing. And over the years I've also had many ideas for groups and training sessions, but I've never had the capacity to do it, between whether that be not having my own group or not being able to do it due to no experience, things like that. So I've now been able to develop my own sessions, my own groups, all that sort of thing, and been able to gather feedback from the young people, from staff members, from managers, and it's really helped me see where I can adapt things to fit certain groups. I've done things such as baby discovery. I've been in ASN schools, primary, high schools, and general youth groups. And it's been an amazing experience. I especially like being in the schools, as I was looking to be a homeschool partnership officer, as that is something I'm extremely interested in. And yeah, that's just the area that I see myself into. The support from Marita as well is also really helpful for not just myself, but the 19 other people that are on the course. She's adapted programmes for everyone and showcased their skills individually, but also helped them turn their weaknesses into strengths. And it's been amazing, between confidence to leadership. This job has motivated me, obviously, to continue my career path, to do my education, as I know I've got the experience and I know I'm missing one hire to get into uni, but I'm pretty sure, well, I'm hoping that this is going to help me get in, because if not, I don't really have a backup plan. So fingers crossed, here we go. So following my uni application, I'd love to obtain a support worker job role, as I believe I'm more than ready for it, between experience and planning. I know the forms, I know the procedures, and it's also gave me the confidence to trust my own decisions. I've always been a confident person. I mean, I'd talk to a room with a million people in it, and then when I start talking, I'm not going to stop. But I've never been able to trust my own decisions. I'm always second guessing myself, whereas now I know that I'm making the right decision for me and the people around me, and I don't doubt myself half as much as I used to. And due to this programme, I'm heading in a direction I've been putting off for so many years due to procrastination and the fear of failing. And I know my career path is in my grasp because I'm halfway through my personal statement, because the first one deleted, which is another story. But I feel like in the future, if this programme's continued, it'll help a lot of other young people for their lives for the better if they don't have the necessary qualifications to get into uni the first time round. But thank you very much, and I'll pass back on to Eleanor.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you to Erin, Cara and Amy there for giving us a really good insight into their own individual experiences and their journeys throughout the programme, and also a few good points for future employment ahead coming out there, so good interview skills too. Obviously we're happy to answer any questions that anybody might have. There's myself, Erin, Carla and Amy and Marita here to do so. Thanks. Thank you, Convener.
Thanks, Eleanor. What a lovely positive report, and to see 3 people who are really gaining from this. It's wonderful. I think Councillor McGowan said something earlier of similar ilk, that these young people are a credit. They're wonderful. And Councillor Brannan McVeigh.
Couldn't agree with you more, Convener. What an input of opportunity and optimism from these young people, our young workforce, and what a difference they're making to a variety of community groups. And I suppose that's really where my question lies. There was a kind of a nod to the community groups that the young people have been engaging with. Can you tell us a bit more about maybe the diversity of community groups? And I think this is wonderful to hear. Yes, CLD grow on their own because some young people had a very close relationship with CLD. But for those young people who have joined the programme who had never considered this as an opportunity, and this quite unique Youth Guarantee programme has given them a gateway into CLD as a profession, is just wonderful. So can you tell me a bit more about some of the groups that they have been working with, just to demonstrate the diversity, whether it be across the authority or indeed just different people that they've been working with?
Is it yourself, Marita, who's going to answer? Yeah.
Hi, sorry, I'm Marita Nichols. I'm the Development Officer for the Youth Guarantee
And
Programme.
Marita, congratulations to you for tailoring individual support to each of those young people to bring out very clearly the best in them. Congratulations to you.
I'm getting a round of applause in here. That doesn't happen very often. Thanks, Councillor McVeigh. Yeah, so some of the Erin was telling us, that they're working from across a range of groups. So everything from baby massage, so they're going in and helping the CLD staff within their own communities. And this is pan North Lanarkshire, right? So I know we spoke there about Erin and Carla. They were saying predominantly their work is in their local area, but it has to be said that they're travelling out with their own areas. They're supporting groups that they would never have had the opportunity to do beforehand. I think it should be noted, a lot of the assistant support workers came into this with a youth work background, but it's not just youth work that they're doing, as we've heard. So the family learning and the adult learning is given opportunity that you just couldn't get that opportunity if you weren't within this role. I think in particular what's really beneficial is the ESOL classes. So a lot of our staff are supporting within the ESOL groups, and that has been a very positive experience. We have Peter McNally, who's coming in, and in the new term, we're going to have our assistant support workers supporting community groups on the ground. So we've got Community Action Newark Hill have now got come to us and saying, look, do you have anybody that could come and support us? So they're getting a broad range of experiences there.
And my apologies, I had a bit of a tech nightmare there where I kind of dropped off, but I'm sure my colleagues enjoyed the response, and certainly the report alluded to it. So again, my congratulations, and I know that you're only at the 6-month level, so have a great process for in the next 6 months. But I think it demonstrates when we think creatively within the authority and investing directly into the potential of our young people, we can see the difference it makes not only to them, but the service that they're working for, and indeed the communities from which they live and we represent. Sincere thanks to you all. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions. Do we agree to note the report? Thanks to all concerned. Next one is again Liz, and we have some other visitors coming along. We have Claire Nielsen and Herman, I think, yes. that correct, Liz?
Yeah, thanks, convener. Yeah, I think today we've just taken in a different approach to committee, and I think, you know, we're used to having our young people from North Lanarkshire Youth Council present, but I think it was good to hear, you know, from the recipients, you know, of services, and also from the workforce. We really see, you know, an important role in developing our young workforce. So it was great that we had a different approach where we brought in some of our new young staff, and they're really kind of keeping us on our toes, and it's been really beneficial for the workforce as well. Not to mention the fact that it's really helped with the kind of age profile of the service as well, and it's been absolutely great, you know, and we're absolutely delighted to see some of our young people particularly getting involved in areas like an ESOL, and that's a growth area for us going forward. You know, English is a second or other language, and we're developing that whole work. Eleanor's leading on that, and there'll be opportunities there to gain further work as well. The next group, again, we wanted to kind of bring the family learning work alive. You know, at last committee we brought the family learning delivery plan, and again we talk about, you know, all these reports, we talk about the strategies, but we're absolutely delighted that we have got two parents who are willing to come and share their experiences with committee. You know, we see it from an officer's point of view, but I think it's really worthwhile to take, you know, kind of 5 minutes to actually hear about the benefits of a range of interventions from a parent's perspective. So I'll pass you over to Leslie, who will introduce the parents, and hopefully they'll be able to give committee a bit of input to how that's helped them, especially during the pandemic, if that's okay.
Thanks. You there, Leslie? Yep.
Yes, thank you, convener. As Liz said, this was just a short report to bring to life one aspect of our health and wellbeing programme, and that's namely Sleep Scotland. Sleep problems is something that can happen in families at any time, but what we've saw nationally and certainly locally is an up in that issue, you know, as a direct result of the pandemic. And it's something within the family learning team that we put in a training programme to upskill our staff so that we can, you know, respond to the needs of our communities. And as Liz said, I'm absolutely delighted that Karen and Claire have agreed to join us this morning. They're over at John Paul II Wellbeing Bay, so I thank the school for giving us that opportunity to bring them together, and Louise McLean, one of our development officers, is there just to support them on the ground as well. So if you are ready, Karen and Claire, am I okay just to hand over to you so that you can share your experiences with us?
I think the volume needs to go up a wee bit.
Is that any better?
That's brilliant.
Right. At the start of lockdown, I was working with Caroline through Solihull, and my son started struggling with a lot with sleep. He's got autism, so with routine changing, we were really struggling at home. Dylan really struggles with other people helping, so he had a past relationship with going to toddlers with Caroline. So me and Caroline had sat and spoke previous about getting help for Dylan. So Dylan needs to be in control. So what we done was Caroline tailored a plan round about Dylan to make him feel he was in control of his sleep. But really it was, we were actually putting the necessary steps in to help him. What we found over the past 6 months is massive difference with, I feel, in family life. The house is more calmer, we're all getting on better in the family. Before we were a lot of niggles, arguments, because everybody was lack of sleep, because the whole house was in an uproar. Now the house is a lot settled. I feel as if I'm a better mum, that I'm not failing my son. Caroline's been amazing. She's always at the other end of her phone, just to encourage me, because it's not always straightforward. We can have bad nights, and I could be on the phone to Caroline the following day, and she's always there to encourage me to keep going with Dylan. We've had a lot of comments from school to say how Dylan's engagement, concentration levels is so much better now. It's just amazing to see. He also has a lot of difficulties around mental health issues, and the paediatrician also says about he hears voices and sees some nasty images, but they're cut down now, and we put it all down to how much better sleep he's getting. It's just been a massive help having Caroline. She doesn't make you feel as if you're failing. She's always there to speak to you. And that's a big part, because I always struggled to go and ask for help, and she's so friendly just to actually know that you're not being a nuisance, picking up the phone to say, Caroline, I'm struggling with Dylan. She'll come back again and she'll just switch plans round. She doesn't make you feel as if you're failing as a mum, and that's what I felt. It's been great. I'm going to pass you over to Claire now.
Thanks, Karen.
Programmes. A wee girl, she's 10 and she's struggling to sleep. She was awake all night, really crab it during the day. So Caroline had suggested a plan put in place, and since that's happened, it's been a really good help. She was struggling at school with her self-confidence with maths, and ever since Caroline's helped us, she's come back and saying, I've got full marks on my maths, mum. So I was encouraging her, saying, well, that's good. What's that down to? And she said, because I'm getting a better sleep. And just like what Cam said, Caroline's amazing. Like, she makes you feel welcome. She doesn't judge you, and she's just a really nice lady. She's amazing. And I've worked with Caroline as well, my other wee girl. With all my kids, one of my wee girls has got autism, so she made me feel as if I wasn't doing anything wrong. She pointed out to me that I'm one of the best parents she's ever seen, because like I've got a skill with doing the VIG, so that made me feel better as a parent, because I get a lot of comments saying that it was my fault, it was my parenting skills, and Caroline opened my eyes up and made me realise that it's not me, that there is a problem. So she's made me feel better as a mum as well, and she's made all my children feel a wee bit better within themselves as well, because we've been working together. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Claire. Very brave for you and Karen to come on this morning, and it's opening our eyes to other side of the work that's being done. We don't always see that. Now, are we going back to yourself, Leslie? Do you have anything else to say?
Thank you, convener. Yeah, I would just want to reiterate thank you to Claire and Karen for coming along this morning and sharing their experiences. And they can obviously reference just one of our CLD workers who they've been working closely with. And Caroline set the standard, if you like, within the team, because she has been one of our first trained Sleep Scotland counsellors. So we're working together. Now that the staff are all trained, we're working together with Caroline in particular to build on her knowledge and experience, so that we can offer, as I say, that this programme out to more members of our communities. And to help tackle this, this very important issue, and I think sometimes it's easy just to kind of almost dismiss families when they're saying that the wee ones are not sleeping properly or they've not had a good night's sleep. But what we've clearly heard is how that can impact on the whole family, and how that can impact on people's mental health and well-being, and obviously have an impact on children's learning at school. And certainly some of the first feedback we're having from staff is just the confidence it's given them having this training to initiate those conversations with families, asking about how good is sleep within the family, and is it something that we need to look at, and that we now have the skills to look at strategies and to help support our families. I'm happy to take any further questions. Thank you.
Well, I think you're in luck, Leslie. I don't see anyone in the chat bar, but I think it's just such a positive report. I think we're also impressed, and keep up the good work as it spreads out across the authority. Things can only improve both in schools and in families. Well done. Do we agree to note the report? Okay. Next report is Active and Creative Communities, and that's Heather.
Thank you, Convener. So this report provides an update on the progress and priorities for active and creative communities, and it's actually been 7 months today since services transferred back to the Council. Within the report, we reflect on the original benefits that we hope to achieve from insourcing. So the committee will be aware that the original decision to insource services was taken on 31st of January 2020. Following establishment of a project team, formal transfer took place on the 1st of April 2021. In paragraph 2.1, you'll see there were two main benefits which the Council hoped to achieve by insourcing services. First of all, alignment with the plan for North Lanarkshire, and secondly, ensuring that service delivery met with community needs without any potential conflict of interest that could arise from the needs of the ALIO. You will note in paragraph 2.2 that 661.26 FTE transferred back to the Council on the 1st of April of this year. Since that time, my own team, Active and Creative, have been going through significant change as part of the Delivering for Communities review. You'll see the details of that review in paragraph 2.3. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is to ensure that the service is well placed to allow us to work with colleagues to ensure that we are responding to local need and priorities, as is also reflected in the forthcoming LOIPs that have already been mentioned. Reflecting on the original benefits and in support of the plan for North Lanarkshire, I've highlighted just a few of our achievements that we've come up with over the last few months for the benefit of communities. So first of all, we launched Active 65, which offers reduced cost gym and leisure pass for our older residents. And in the first 4 weeks of its introduction, our membership levels in that age group increased by 120% and continues to grow. In support of effort to tackle childhood obesity, we launched Active Teen. That's a free gym pass for 11 to 15-year-olds. We hope that this programme will help young people to build healthy habits, and we're currently looking at options to try to extend that to the age of 21 for care experienced young people. Finally, in paragraph 2.5.3, I've highlighted an initiative that we are hoping to be supported in. It's not happened yet, but we're hopeful. So we have applied for funding to work with University of Edinburgh on a social prescribing project for the arts, and that will allow us to support the health and wellbeing of our communities through access to the arts. Ultimately, we will work and we will take referrals from our partners in education, health and social care, CLD, NHS Lanarkshire, and we're hoping to get an outcome any day now, so we'll be able to come back to you on that. Overall, as with all services and teams, we do continue to undergo significant change. However, I think if we reflect on the original benefits we hope to achieve, we've made a lot of progress. This report is here for noting, but I'm happy to take any questions.
I don't see any questions. Just like to congratulate you in getting the increased uptake in the two groups, and also your involvement in the suicide prevention at Ravenscraig last week.
Thank you. Thank you, Tina.
Councillor Hodgson, sorry, you just came in there as I was speaking. Where are you? You there?
Thank you, Convener. Just to make a comment, to say to Leicester, it's to see the developments here and the progress, and particularly the focus that I can see on childhood obesity. I think that's something that we need to really tackle. There's been a study, I think, come out last year from the University of Glasgow that said that obesity is now causing far more issues than smoking, etc., because of sedentary lifestyles and various illnesses. It drives so much chronic illness, so it's good that we can tackle childhood obesity, particularly during the pandemic, when most people were slightly traumatized, eating more comfort food, i.e. sugar, and sugar there's an insulin spike and drives up obesity as well if you consume too much of the stuff. So it's really good that this is back within the council and we're focusing on such things, because that will lead to improved health and well-being in the whole area. So this is it's a really good report. I'm delighted to see the progress. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hogg. I don't see any other questions, but it would be good if we all got that bit fitter. I know I did a lot more walking during lockdown and that, but then once we get back into all the meetings, you spend a lot of time sitting at computers, and in the winter weather, it's harder to push yourself out. So maybe we should all be thinking on this, taking note of it, Heather, and doing some good work. We should be showing an example. So do we agree to note the report? Okay, and now on to the last report, and it's the Community Board Development Programme. And now is it Sarah?
That's me, thank you, convener. Yes. So good morning, everyone. I'm hoping this is a pretty straightforward update today. The purpose of the report is to provide you with an update on Programme of Work 56.2 and work to inform the Community Board's Learning and Development Programme. The report specifically contains outcomes of the training needs analysis that was conducted and sets out the next steps in terms of how we're taking this forward. Members may recall from the last update that we gave that we had some early engagement with board members, and we set a series of questions around 11 priority areas. Those are shown in section 2.2.1, and that set the scene for the training needs analysis. Section 2.3.4 sets out the detailed results from that training needs analysis, showing what the community board members who took part said the priorities were for them, and also more specifically where they felt that the biggest gaps are to support. Those are highlighted as all aspects of participatory budgeting, the council's budget process itself, the community asset transfer process, and also local development programmes, and in general how it all works. And I think probably those priorities are also reflective of where the boards are as well in terms of their infancy, and what we've heard Leanne and particularly Ross talk about today as well. Section 2.4 to 2.7 outlines the next steps that we'll take with the community partnership team, with Todd and with some subject matter experts, to introduce a development programme. It will launch in stages against those 4 priority areas, but what we'll also do is start to build up resources that are relevant to some of the wider topics that members can tap into at any time. Section 2.4.2 talks about how the launch will take place in January 2022, and I think that's important because what that allows us to do is, through the next board cycle that we're just coming into now, it allows us to feed back on those results and the next steps, and also allows us to capture and incorporate the emerging plans that Leanne and Ross have talked about today for support models and governance structures. So that's it from me today, convener. I'm happy to take any questions. Committee are asked to note the report and approve the forward plan. Thank you.
I don't see any questions again. Thank you so much for it, and I know there's been various sessions already taking place. I'd like to thank you for that, because I know a number of people on the community boards, first time maybe being involved, and they're glad to get the support. So most welcome. Do we agree to approve the report, people? We have reached the end. I'd like to thank all presenters and all elected members for your input, and see you next year. But we'll see you at the council meeting in December.
Thank you, Chair.